Kano State Public Complaint and Anti-Corruption Commission. Federal government unveils first Nigerian investment policy draft in Kano. Independent National Electoral Commission discloses delay behind printing permanent voters card. And on the foreign scene, Israel boosts ties with Arab allies, excluding Palestinians. Good evening, you're listening to Freedom Global News on 99.5 FM. I am Zara Zanna. Today is the 28th of March, 2022. And now the news in full. The Kano Police Command have confirmed laying siege to the residence of a suspended chairman of Kano State Public Complaint and Anti-Corruption Commission, Muhi Magaji Rimingado, on Sunday. The police had earlier stationed their vehicles near Muhi Magaji Rimingado, Yahya Gusau Road residence and laid ambush on him around 7 p.m. on Sunday. Confirming the development to reporters today, Kano Police Public Relations Officer SB Abdullahi Haruna Kyawa said their men were at the house to serve him an invitation.
Okay, yesterday, 27th March 2022, the police from Kano State Police Command, while acting on the directives of a court, that is on court order, went to the residence of Barrister Muhi Magaji for invitation. When they went there to serve in the invitation, unfortunately, they had sporadic gunshots emanating from the residence. As professionals in discharging their duties, they took cover and withdrew. And within seconds, a vehicle in very high speed came out from the residence. And then as the police officers left, this is the issue that arose yesterday.
So where has the matter proceeded to after that?
Case is still on here in the command, and of course, when we get him, as directed by the court, he will be taken back to the court for prosecution.
It could be recalled that the Kano State House of Assembly had invited Muhi Magaji Rimingado to appear before its ad hoc committee investigating a petition against him on July 14th, 2021. A federal high court in Abuja today declined to grant the bail application of suspended DCP Abba Kyari. Justice Emeka Nwite, in a ruling, held that the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLA, had placed sufficient evidence before the court to refuse the bail request. He also rejected bail plea of Kyari's co-defendants. The NDLA, in its counter-affidavit, held that it was inappropriate to grant bail to the applicant because of the facts and circumstances of the case. The anti-narcotic agency described Kyari as a flight risk and argued that if granted bail, the suspended DCP might jump bail. The agency, who said the applicant might interfere with the evidence if granted bail, urged the court to dismiss Kyari's bail plea. It argued that the medical challenges of the applicant were not beyond the capacity of the agency's medical personnel. The judge in the ruling aligned with NDLA's arguments and dismissed the request. The Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment today unveiled the first ever Nigerian investment policy draft to stakeholders from northern Nigeria in Kano. The engagement is part of the ministry's strategy to bring together different stakeholders to familiarize themselves with the provisions of the new policy. According to the permanent secretary of the ministry, Dr. Evelyn Ngige, the new policy drafts will help both local and foreign investors to determine what Nigeria's investment policy actually is. Represented by the Director, Investment Promotion Department of the Ministry, Mrs. Olukemi Arodudu, the Permanent Secretary said Nigeria's investment regime up till now is governed by the enabling acts of the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission and several other agencies of the federal government. She said the policy would also help complement Nigeria's role in West Africa and the continent in general, just as the country is playing a major role in the second stage of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Arodudu also said the engagement will later in the week take place in Lagos for stakeholders from the southern part of the country. The Nigerian Football Federation, NFF, President Amaju Melvick Pinnick is confident that the Super Eagles will qualify for the 2022 FIFA World Cup after their second leg against the Black Stars of Ghana tomorrow in Abuja. Correspondent Muhammad Sani Uba has details of this and other sports updates.
Kano tomorrow morning is expected to have killer
Nigeria Football Federation President Amaju Melvick Pinnick has vowed that the Black Stars of Ghana will not be so lucky in the second leg of their FIFA World Cup qualifiers tomorrow. Pinnick is confident that the Super Eagles will get their World Cup ticket in front of their expectant fans at the Mashid Abiola Stadium in Abuja. Similarly, the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport Development, including officials of the Nigeria Football Federation, has concluded plans to provide free bus ride to willing fans to the venue on match day. The buses will be available at the places such as Kefi, Masaka, Maraba, Yanya, Orozo, Kurudu, Jukoi, Suleja Madalla, Zuba, and Dedei. There will also be buses from Kubwa, Gwagwalada, Kuje, Lube, Mpape, Lifecam, Eagle Square, Old Parade Ground, Area 3, Kabusa, Apo Mechanic, and Gwarimpa, all heading to the Mashid Abiola National Stadium. Meanwhile, Shehu Sani, a former federal lawmaker, has suggested that former Nigeria international Taribo West should play for the Super Eagles ahead of their 2022 FIFA World Cup second leg playoff against the Black Stars of Ghana. The Super Eagles need a win against the Black Stars in order to qualify for the World Cup in Qatar later this year. In another update, Christian Eriksen said his goal on his return to the Denmark side was just a warm-up for tomorrow's friendly in Hoffenheim on the ground at which he suffered his cardiac arrest. The Brentford midfielder scored his side's second goal in Saturday's 4-0 loss in the Netherlands. And on tennis, Joe Salisbury will become the third British world number one when he ascends to the top of the doubles ranking on April 4. Salisbury replaced Croatia's Matt Pavic after he and compatriot Nikola Mektic lost in the Miami Open last 16. Salisbury and Regime Ram reached the Miami Open quarterfinals last night. Muhammad Sanoba, Freedom Radio.
The Global News is coming to you from Freedom Radio 99.5 FM. You can send your comments, opinions, and watch us live on Freedom Radio Nigeria on Facebook.com. You can get the link to the page on our website, freedomradionig.com. Welcome back. You're still listening to Freedom Global News, the 99.5 FM. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, today disclosed that the printing of Permanent Voters Card, PVC, for new registrants was being delayed by its robust cleaning up of the voters' register. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, INEC chairman, disclosed this in his keynote address at the opening ceremony of the 5-day induction retreat for INEC's national commissioners in Lagos. According to him, the commission is encouraged by the response of the citizens to the ongoing continuous voters registration exercise, as it has recently developed physical registration beyond the state and local government offices nationwide. The chairman said that INEC had completed the ABIS for the first and second quarter of the CVR, adding that the commission would meet next week and detailed dates and locations for the collection of PVCs would be announced. Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed says the rising prices of petroleum products, including petrol, diesel, aviation fuel, and cooking gas in Nigeria, are not limited to the country, but a global problem also experienced in the United Kingdom and the United States. He stated this at a press conference in Abuja while reacting to sundry issues confronting the nation in recent times. Mohammed said that the last issue he wants to address is the figures being bandied around by the folks on the other side and a section of the press comparing the prices of some foodstuffs, petrol, diesel, etc., pre-2015 and now. This misuse of statistics is clear mischief, according to him. Those who bandy around these figures without putting them in context are being clever by half. For months, Nigerians have had to contend with energy crisis, with sharp increase in the cost of cooking gas, petrol, amid power outages and grid collapse. While petrol became scarce with a corresponding price increase, the price of diesel rose astronomically from about 250 naira to about 715 naira. For tomorrow's weather forecast in some cities in Nigeria and parts of Niger Republic.
Kano tomorrow morning is expected to have clear sky and light winds at an average temperature of 19 degrees Celsius. A later change to sunny and moderate breeze at 23 degrees Celsius. Katsina will have similar weather condition at 20 degrees Celsius. A later increase to 24 degrees Celsius. Kaduna will have clear sky and light winds at 21 degrees Celsius. A later give way to sunny and gentle breeze at 25 degrees Celsius. Abuja will experience similar weather condition at 24 degrees Celsius. A later change to sunny and light winds at 29 degrees Celsius. Lagos is expected to have clear sky and light winds at 27 degrees Celsius. A later give way to sunny interval and light winds at 29 degrees Celsius. Moving to Niger Republic, Maradi and Zindar will experience clear sky and gentle breeze at 22 degrees Celsius. A later change to sunny interval and moderate breeze at 25 degrees Celsius. Umulkhair Abakar Ungogo, Freedom Radio.
And in business, Muhammad Abba Abdullahi has updates.
The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has advised Nigeria and other developing countries to explore the revenue potential of personal income tax. The IMF said personal income tax is a viable source of revenue that has the potential of boosting the local economy. This was disclosed in a report entitled Personal Income Tax Has Untapped Potential in Poor Countries. The Washington-based lender stated that in the 2 decades preceding the pandemic, income tax revenue more than doubled in low-income countries, raising from the equivalent of 1% of GDP to 2.1%, while emerging market increased from 2.1% to 3.1%. Meanwhile, the World Bank stressed that the need to boost labor output in Africa, stating that sluggish productivity growth in making the continent lag behind many developing countries. This was contained on the World Bank's website, saying that the publication of a report entitled Boosting Productivity in Sub-Saharan Africa, the bank said a comprehensive agenda to boost workers' output in Africa is vital for the continent post-pandemic recovery and long-term prosperity, as well as protection against the impact of climate change. Muhammad Abba Abdullahi, Freedom Radio.
And on the foreign scene, Israel has hosted the foreign ministers of 4 Arab nations and the United States in a bid to strengthen its position in the rapidly shifting Middle East. The gathering brought together the top diplomats from all but one of the Arab countries that have normalized relations with Israel in U.S.-mediated negotiations, including 3 that signed agreements with Israel during the Trump administration in 2020. Meeting at a resort in the southern Negev region near the tomb of Israel's first president, David Ben-Gurion, the ministers and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken pledged to expand cooperation to include energy, environmental, and security matters and try to bring others into the agreements. The Palestinians were not invited to the summit, despite their ongoing occupation at the hands of Israel being a central feature of Arab-Israel relations for the last 50 years. Jordan was the only Arab country to have normalized relations with Israel to not attend the summit. The country's King Abdullah instead visited the Israel-occupied West Bank in solidarity with the Palestinians. We've come to the end of today's global news, but before we leave, a recap of our headlines. Police siege residence of suspended chairman of Kano State Public Complaint and Anti-Corruption Commission. Federal government unveils first Nigerian investment policy draft in Kano. Independent National Electoral Commission discloses delay behind printing permanent voters card. And on the foreign scene, Israel boosts ties with Arab allies, excluding Palestinians. On behalf of the entire production team and Aizar Zanna, thank you for listening.
Freedom